like to add, because when I talk about these things, a lot of people, especially people not in crypto, they get, they feel like I'm talking about some futuristic world that doesn't exist. So what I always like to ask people who are into Axie Infinity in particular is, how do you tell people about Axie Infinity without having them think that you're crazy?
Yeah, I told my parents and it just went straight over their heads. So yeah, that was a bit of a waste of time. I'm actually married to a Filipino, and it's just massive in the Philippines. I think 60 to 70% of their user base is from the Philippines. So it's a little bit easier to explain to people in the Philippines because it's so huge over there. But in Australia, yeah, it's quite difficult to explain it, I
Is
guess.
it is it like a
Yeah.
household name in the Philippines? Because they
It
do
is.
have, I
Yeah,
think it's like, yeah.
everyone knows about it in the just about there. A lot of people know about it. Yeah,
Oh.
it's very well known. That's how I first came across it. There's a documentary on it a couple of months ago about play to earn, and it was basically in the Philippines. It was showing how a lot of people in the Philippines are actually they're making a very good income for that country playing Axie Infinity. To give you an example, my my wife's sister-in-law is a nurse in the Philippines, and an Axie Infinity player can make a better wage than what the actual nurse in the Philippines makes at the moment. It's quite phenomenal when you think about it.
Oh,
Yeah,
damn. So
nurse very very well paid in the Philippines.
yeah, yeah.
At the moment, playing Axie, I think you could make. I reckon you could make $270 a week. A nurse in the Philippines, not all of them, but first year nurse in a public hospital makes about $200 a week.
So
So
you can make more money playing Axie Infinity and have fun.
yeah, absolutely. And
Wow.
I saw another person, YouTuber, in Twitter tweet about how even in Malaysia, Axie Infinity players making more than a 3-year graduate in lots of cases. So I don't know if it's sustainable in the long term, but at the moment, I think it is for at least another year because it's just got huge potential growth still. But yeah, it's amazing how much income you can make from just playing a game at the moment. It's mind blowing. It's really life changing in countries in the Philippines where there's no social security, and a lot of people at the moment over the last year, COVID, aren't able to work, especially a country that's sort of dependent on hospitality a lot. A lot of the hotels have obviously closed down. My sister-in-law, yeah, she's lost her job because she worked in the hotel industry and she's been out of work for a year. So that was another thing that got me interested. I'm going to set her up with an account so that she can actually make some income as well.
And will you, are you going into these scholarship programs where you, if you have enough Axies, you can basically lend
Uh,
out your Axies to
I've, got,
others? No.
I've got enough Ethereum to buy a few Axies and set them up. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I think I heard something like, is it 60% or something like that of all users in on Axie Infinity are from the Philippines right now? So it must be huge over there.
It is. It's 60 to 70%, and another 70% of those have never used crypto before. So it's actually introducing a huge amount of new people to crypto, which is
Exactly.
another. Yeah.
I think that's really where, also for Celsius for that matter, that's really where the power of Axie Infinity comes in. There's just so many good stories to tell. First off, it's play to earn, and who doesn't like a good game, to play a good game? And then you earn at the same time. That's just, double positive right there. And at the same time, if you want to do a triple positive, you get people to expose to crypto and blockchain, which arguably is the future of money. um, you can breed these axes. So not only can you earn to play the game, you can also, if you have these axes, if you own them, you can have them have babies. Basically, you can breed them and have new axes, which you can either sell or play with. And then you have these scholarships, which is what you were talking about just earlier, right? Where you basically lend your axes to others to play for you on behalf of you, and then the money that you earn, SLP tokens, you split 50-50, I guess, or whatever the agreement is between you and the person who's playing. So there's just so many good
I've looked up the
stories.
scholarship. Sorry, yeah, most of them look like 70% to the user, 30% to the owner, from what I've seen.
Right.
I've never used the scholarship system, but yeah,
Right.
that's most people in the Philippines would have to go that route because they just wouldn't have enough money to buy 3 Axies at the moment. It's
Mhm.
quite prohibitive in that respect.
Yeah. Do you think they will get into a sort of, obviously scholarships is free to play, assuming that you can get someone to lend your access to you, but do you think they will have sort of a free version kind of thing where people can just start playing right away without asking anyone to lend their access to you?
I wouldn't think so. No. Yeah,
Because that's really
but yeah,
about the
who knows?
tokenomics, right? The reason
Yeah,
why
that's where
Axie's,
that would ruin. It might ruin the tokenomics, and then it takes away that income from playing it, I guess. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean
it's a bit.
the
It's unfortunate that it's such a high cost to enter for a lot of people. But I guess that's why the scholarship's been a really important part of it as well. I guess.
hmm,
But the average person in the Philippines, so I think at the moment, realistically, it's going to cost you 600 or probably point 0.6 ETH, which is
hmm,
that's over $1,000 to set up. Yeah,
yeah, something like that.
so
Yeah,
it's US dollars, and we're talking about people. Yeah,
yeah,
pretty poor country, the Philippines. Not many people have that amount of money to
yeah.
set up an account.
Maybe they'll just have a simulation kind of game where you just simulate a team and then you play. You don't earn anything. You don't own the axes that is simulated. You just play. Maybe they'll do it like that, because it is true. Their tokenomics is very dependent on people continuously buying. Basically, like I think that's where the stroke of genius when it comes to the financial aspects of it, that you have to buy 3 axes to make up a team
Yeah,
before you can play. So there's a very high incentive for people to get in, breed, continue to play, and improve your axes, basically.
yeah, and they've got a land. They're selling land, and I saw the other day that the cheapest piece of land is 8,000 US dollars. So they're bringing another aspect into it in the future. They haven't given the full details on what it's actually going to be, but
Mm.
I have a feeling you're going to be able to mine the AXS token with the land. But
Mm.
from what I've read so far, but it's unclear exactly what's happening there. But huge amounts of money being spent on the land. It's insane as well. I think that's going to be a little bit like liquidity, the Axian version of liquidity mining. I have a feeling.
Mm. That would be kind of
Yeah,
fun, actually. If you buy a piece of land and then there's a mine, like a gold mine or whatever type of mine, and
yeah,
instead of gold, you are mining AXS tokens.
yeah, something like that.
Nice. But I have to ask, when did you get started? I only got started recently with Axie Infinity. When did you get started and why? What caught your
Yeah, I've
attention?
only been probably only 3 weeks. Yeah.
Hmm.
But I heard about it about 3 months ago um, through that documentary, and I didn't look too much further into it because it was on Ethereum, and I just thought, oh, what's the point of playing it on Ethereum at the moment? That's going to cost you just huge,
Hmm.
huge amount of money and gas. It's probably not worth your while.
Hmm.
But then I came back to it. There's so much tweeting about it I heard, and I just looked back at it again and realized it wasn't actually on the Ethereum blockchain anymore. They've made their own blockchain, and
Hmm.
so the transactions are basically free.
Hmm.
And that's what I thought. Oh yeah, I'll have to give this a try.
Hmm.
And I think that's what's caused the explosive growth in it as well, is the fact that they've moved over recently to this Ronin blockchain, which is their own blockchain, and that's where they have this exponential growth. I think they went from 350,000 daily users to 500,000 literally in 1 week, and that's when they had all the servers started to crash and you couldn't play the
Hmm.
game there about a week ago. Yeah, but yeah, I haven't been in that long, about 3 weeks. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's about the same. I think 2 weeks now. I bred my first Axie this weekend, which was super exciting because I was a little hesitant in the beginning. I was like, okay, this seems too good to be true almost, to me at least. I spent 1 Ethereum buying 3 axes, so on average, one third of a ETH for each axie. and just playing around, really playing the game, trying to breed, watching some YouTubers talk about how they did it, what to look for, because it is for those people who haven't tried Axie Infinity, it's very much like Pokemon, where you have different races, or I can't remember what they
Yeah.
call them, like beast and plant, whatever, similar to fire and water and all that in Pokemon, and each actually has different skills, so that you can play in combat. And then what I really like about Axie compared to Pokemon, for example, is the whole breeding factor, where there's some super sophisticated, I'm sure, model underneath that generates these different genes for each Axie. And you can obviously, because it's all based on blockchain, you can see the family history, go back in time and who bred which Axie, and see
Yeah, I made
there.
I made the mistake too. You
Mm.
can't have axes that are related breeding with
Yeah,
each other either. So
yeah,
I had
you
to go and
can't.
buy another axie so I could breed.
Yeah, exactly. They really thought through, like, okay, is it sisters and brothers? They can't breed. Parents with each other, like incest, that doesn't work either. There's all these
It's-
there's all these different conditions, just like in the real world. Yeah,
yeah.
but
And
anyways,
you really need to know a fair bit about the game. I just went straight in and bought 3 Axies, and they turned out to be terrible. They don't have all the aspects that I need. You really need to do a bit of research and
mm,
find out. Like, you have to have an attack Axie, and you have to have a
mm,
tank sort of defense one. There's really quite a lot to learn,
yeah.
and a lot of tactics involved in playing it. Yeah, it's actually quite an engaging game.
That's where the good games, I think, come up, like games that manage to make it easy to play. Like, if you just want to play and not be the best, if you just want to play and have fun, I think the interface and like it's very simple game to play, but you can also go super deep and make it extremely complicated, because there are all these strategies, as you say, just like in Pokemon, like how you combine different axes. You have a tank in the beginning, like you have the formation also with
Yeah,
the axes that you put on your team. Yeah, so it's a lot to get into. So I spent a bit of time researching, but it's only been a week or something. Like I bought 3 axes and I bred one right away. So yeah, it's moving fast. I'm on the, I guess one of these, or we are on one of these exponential curves that has happened after they rolled out the Ronin wallet and blockchain.
yeah, yeah,
So where do you
yeah.
see Axie Infinity going from here? Is this the current generation's version of Pokemon? That's what a lot of people talk about. Like, Pokemon was very big. I think it started in the 90s, and is still very big. Is something like Axie Infinity going to be the Pokemon of 2020 and onwards?
It could be, yeah. Who knows? I can see them. I think they're already organising tournaments. I can see that being fairly popular.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm sure they've got a lot more things coming at the moment. It's the crazy thing. It's still in beta, basically. It's you can't download the app from the app store. It's still, you've got to do a sort of test mode app to download, and yeah, it's not even in full production yet. So to
Mm.
have the engagement, the number of users at the moment, when it's still basically a beta product, it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. I play it on my laptop that I use also here, and I have the app on my Android phone, but it doesn't work on my Android phone. I don't know about you, if it works on your phone.
Yeah, it works on my phone. Yeah, but
Mm.
um, I haven't actually played it on my phone, but I just gave it a try one day just by scanning the QR code.
Mm.
But yeah, it does. But once again, you've got to. It's not. You've got to. I originally started to put on an Apple phone, my wife's phone, and
Mm.
you had to use this experimental software, and then you had to approve these other 2 apps. And I thought, oh
Mm.
no, I'm not going to do that. So
Yeah.
I just left it on. Yeah, it's still a bit scary putting on your phone all this experimental software and having to download these irrelevant apps as well.
Sure, for
So
sure.
I gave it a miss on the iPhone.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that also speaks to the potential, as you allude to, right? I mean, if it's not on the App Store and the Google Play Store, and it's so hard to get started,
It is.
imagine
It's
when.
it's not an
Yeah,
easy game to to set up.
yeah,
And they've got 500,000 users already, which just shows how what a phenomenon it is, really. And
Imagine when it
most of
opens
the
up.
people,
Yeah.
most of that, yeah, because they got most of the people in the Philippines. It's basically an individual person's gone and shown another person how to set it up. Basically, it's you just relying on. Normally on an app, you can just click the app, download it, you set up, but it's not that easy to set up. So
Mm.
it's relied a lot on people going just individually helping other people set it up.
Mm. Yeah, word of mouth is a powerful thing still in 2021.
It is. Oh, definitely. If something's good, yeah, the word of mouth works pretty well.
But I think a lot of people who are into Axie Infinity and obviously have an economic incentive for these Axies that they buy to increase. If we see a world where they sort out the whole going from alpha and beta to live on the app stores, people start playing it like crazy. I mean, where does it go from here, right? Because the Axies are already quite expensive. So I can only imagine, a year from now, let's say, and there's 10x, 100x people playing the game. It must be insane the prices that you will pay for land, as you say, and Axies that are unique. I mean, that could go completely wild.
Oh, I've already seen there's been Axies that have sold for $60,000, $80,000, just an individual Axie. It's just, yeah, it is quite amazing.
Do you see it as an investment? Do you see it as a potential big gain from both playing and buying Axies?
Oh, it's for some people, it's been definitely an investment. Masari, which is quite a big, sort of like a VC crypto firm, invested in it. Was one of the backers about I don't know how long ago, and they actually helped them with setting up the tokenomics. But they invested, and they bought Axies and stuff as well. They must have bought the mythical Axies, but they obviously saw the potential there as an investment. So definitely, it's an investment. Yeah,
Yeah.
be a risky one in some respects, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, looking at the prices of some of these axes and what they're sold for, I mean, there must be some speculation underneath, right? It can't just be for playing with a. You mentioned a mystic. I'm not actually sure what defines a mystic. I think it's when they have something unique about them, some shell or whatever. But they go at insane prices. These mystics, is in particular, mystic
They do.
axes.
Yeah. I don't see how you could get your return on investment other than selling it again. Yeah, with a $60,000 Axie, it's obviously not something I'm going to invest in.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, if you made it a lot of money in crypto and you sit with a lot of Ethereum, let's say.
That's exactly right. People are buying $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 NFTs as well. So
Yeah, exactly.
as you said, there are lots of people that are very, very wealthy that have Ethereum through investing in Ethereum and blockchain. So there's the
And
money
it's
there to buy stuff like that.
and it's a diversification strategy, right? I mean, if I sit with I don't know, 10,000 Ethereum and I have nothing else, this might be a good way to diversify my portfolio in crypto at least.
Yeah, yep.
Um, And speaking of investment and diversification and all that, I guess now is a good time to switch gears into Celsius and Celsius Network is the full name. And one of my
Yeah.
first questions that I wanted to ask is how do you combine Axie and Celsius? Because in a way, there are some overlaps between them in terms of how they incentivize people to do more, if you will. On Celsius is adding more tokens or adding more funds to your account, and on Axie is basically adding more time playing the game longer, so you get more SLP and buy more Axies and all that stuff. But how do you combine the two?
I'm not sure if I actually combine the two that much at the moment. Celsius is very similar to Axie in how it's become very popular. It's really has been through word of mouth. They virtually do zero advertising. It's really about incentivizing Celsius members to tell other members and sign them up, and you get rewarded as a member for introducing new people to Celsius. So it's got that sort of aspect to it. Yeah, other than that, I might be using SellPay. I guess if I do sponsor people, I might be using SellPay to pay them their weekly payments. That's a good way of sending crypto for free to people, and that way they can withdraw it for free as well. No, there's no transaction costs with the Celsius wallet. So if I am like going to be a sponsor, which I probably will sponsor a few people later down the track, that's probably one way that I'll go about paying them, using the Celsius app.
What does a sponsor mean exactly? Is it the like people who are playing Axie for you?
Yeah, like if I've got 20 Axies, I might set up 6 teams. I just don't have the time to be playing 6 separate teams every single day. So I can just get those 3 Axies there, put it set up in a separate account, and all you do then is just give the people the QR code. They just scan it and they can play using the QR code, but they don't obviously have the ability to withdraw the SLP or sell the Axies that way. So that's how the sponsorship works, just through the QR code. That way, yeah, you're protected. They can't run off with, they can't run off with your assets, but they can play for you, because you just, once you reach a certain time stage, if you've got heaps of access, you just wouldn't have the time to play all those accounts.
Yeah, and then
so that's a form of investment right there. Yeah, as you said, you can buy 3 Axie, or you can buy 18 Axies and set up 6 teams and have 6 separate people working for you, basically, to playing the Axe. You're basically an employer. You could have 6 separate people playing for you for a weekly wage. There's no end of people wanting to do it in the Philippines. If you, there's literally thousands of people wanting to take a scholarship.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Like you mentioned the example of a nurse earning more playing Axie Infinity compared to nursing. I can only imagine people who are not as well off having a job, especially with COVID. A lot of people lost their job, especially in poor countries. So having something like Axie Infinity, which on the surface obviously is somewhat ridiculous, right? It's a game, you're playing online and you make money. But if you can save entire families sometimes, I'm sure, or at least give them food on the table, then it becomes
an entire family could live reasonably in the Philippines off $250 a week. That could, that's one of the reasons. I guess that's how Celsius could tie into it again, because they're one of the big mottos of Celsius is to do well, which I've done fairly well with my investments, and then do good. So as I said, my sister-in-law in the Philippines hasn't been able to work for a year now, and so I'm going to set up with her account and to help out her and her family. So yeah, do well and then do good is the big Celsius philosophy. I guess I'm buying into that, of helping a few people out as I can now.
That's what Alex Mashinsky, the CEO of Celsius, keeps saying, and it's great to see real people other than himself actually practicing it. And as you say, word of mouth is a powerful thing, right? And you have I need to get one of those, the Celsius hat, to get more people aware of Celsius. No question about it.
Yeah, I've got the Celsius hat, I've got the Celsius shirt and that, but still not a single person's come up and asked, questioned me about it yet, which is a bit unfortunate. Of every time I wear it out in public, but hopefully one day.
They should.
I guess even though they haven't asked me about it, they've still seen it. They might go and check it out on the internet later on without actually coming up and asking me about it.
But I think still, just to be a bit of the devil's advocate, I'm obviously a big fan of crypto and blockchain, but I think still for a lot of people, there's a big barrier to entry, both for Axie Infinity and Celsius. It's, there's a fee, quite high fee, depending on where you're from, to onboard from fiat to crypto. Getting 8, 10, 12% on stable coins is amazing compared to the bank. But if you pay, sometimes I hear people pay 10% to on ramp. I don't know where that is, but that happens to people.
That's definitely not the case in Australia. I wouldn't pay any more than 1% to on ramp. Yeah, I know they really are getting ripped off if you're getting 10%. to on-ramp
Exactly.
fiat to crypto.
Exactly. There are other places that are certainly lower, but if you, let's say you just pay 8%, right, in some countries, I mean, it would
Really,
take you a
8%.
year. Yeah, it would take you it would take you 1 year to get your money back,
To
right?
get
And
your
then
money back,
people are like, okay, why would I
unless
do
you
it in
bought
the first
Bitcoin.
place? Yeah.
Well,
But
Bitcoin's gone up on average 200% a year, so for 12 years. So yeah, that was why I bought into that. So even
mm,
if you did have that big high on-ramp cost, you'd still be well ahead. But
true, true.
convincing people about that, about Bitcoin, it's still a bit of a very hard to convince people. Still, I think the banks have done a very good job of spreading FUD about it that can't be trusted and stuff like that. But
Mm,
I think eventually it's got so many backers now, big corporations or celebrities. I
mm.
don't think there's anything stopping Bitcoin.
Nope. It's that's the beauty of Bitcoin and decentralization in general, right? It can't be stopped. And cat's out of the bag. People are adopting it. People are using it as a store of value predominantly, the way I see it at least. It's gonna it's only a matter of time. Again, if you ask me, that it will replace gold as the sort of safe haven, especially when inflation starts to increase as we see now. So yeah, I think we're in for a ride, a good one.
Yeah,
But I want to go back a little bit to Celsius and combining Axie and Celsius. I think it's a brilliant way that you do it using CellPay, which is for people who haven't tried Celsius. It's basically like PayPal. You send to someone else within the Celsius platform, just like you do it on PayPal, and you don't pay any fees compared to
yeah,
PayPal, where you pay what 4%, 5% fee. In Celsius, there's no fees. That's
yeah. That's
that's a pretty clever way to compensate the people who are playing on behalf of you. I think I might be using that one.
Yeah, it's a very underrated aspect of the Celsius wallet, the CellPay, because it's multi-currency as well. You can send Bitcoin, you can send Ethereum, you can send, there's like 30, 35, 40 assets now that you can actually send, and it's pretty much instantaneous. The money will get there within generally 30 seconds to a minute using CellPay.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, Bitcoin, there's no way you could send a Bitcoin to a friend without at least a $5 transaction fee, I wouldn't think. Plus, you can
Mm.
send it via an email. They don't even have to have an address.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so you can easily send it to your contacts without even having to know the Bitcoin address.
Mm.
So it is actually quite powerful way of sending money, especially with Ethereum. To about a month ago or 2 months ago, it was for sending ERC20 tokens. It was costing $25, $30.
Mm.
It was
Yeah.
insane. But through
Yeah.
CellPay, it would have cost you zero
Mm.
and
Yeah.
been a lot quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And safer for many people. Like you don't need if you lose your password, for example, on Celsius, you can always hit forget password. If you lose your seed phrase to your Ethereum wallet, too bad. So
That's it. Yeah,
that's
I actually feel more confident holding my money there than self
mm,
custody. Absolutely, I don't trust myself not forgetting the password basically, or losing it. I could get the house could get robbed and they could find it in the drawer and
yeah,
take the seed phrase. It's
yeah,
there's a lot of risk to self custody still, and I think that puts a lot of people off getting into crypto as well. Is that concern that you forget your passphrase, you lose all your money. But yeah,
exactly.
that's not the case. That's why the KYC wallet is actually in that respect quite good.
Yeah, and that's the continuous criticism of Celsius that they are a centralized institution. They hold your keys, where all these decentralization maximalists, they're very focused on you need to hold your own keys, self custody, da 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 da. But the fact of the matter is, the far majority in the world, they would like to have some place to go to ask questions, complain if something messed up, and just feel safe instead of everybody sewing in their seed phrases in their mattresses like that
Yeah,
that's not gonna get mass adoption, I think.
absolutely. I agree 100%. It's too different too quickly for people. They need to have a product that's similar to what they've been used to for the last 100 years or whatever in the banking system.
Mm,
It's too much to get used to too quick. Maybe 50 years down the track when they
mm,
got sort of other ways of recovering your seed phrase. I think Vitalik has mentioned it before, that he's got some sort of idea that you can have sort of these emails connected. It's sort of multi-sig and you can recover. But the average person, yeah, as you said, they want the sort of KYC. You can get your money if you accidentally lose your password.
Yeah, exactly. So a question, I guess, that it could be on many people's lips. You have been in crypto and Celsius. It sounds like for quite some time. But if you were starting out today, if you were new to all this, first time you hear about it, what would you be doing? How would you be using Celsius today if you were just getting started?
If I was just getting started, I'd probably buy some Bitcoin and just leave it in the Celsius wallet and make 6% interest on it. Yeah. Yeah, just to get started. But yeah, I agree with, yeah, I think you're not crazy not to own a little bit of Bitcoin, to be honest. That Chamath, I forget how to pronounce his name, but he's a big billionaire. He calls it like doomsday. I forget it's like insurance basically. Yeah. For the insurance for the monetary system, which is America, which is so massively in debt now that they're never going to get out of. They're going to reach a stage where they're not going to be able to pay their debt off. That's that much of debt that they're in. People just don't seem to realise that inflation is, their money printing is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. There's no way around it now. So it's doomsday insurance basically. It's yeah, I originally just still, even myself, can't get my head around Bitcoin getting to 100K. It just seems like a fantasy. It just doesn't feel real, but I'm generally starting to believe that it will happen now. Yeah, especially when people like Alan Smashinsky, who's a very sort of wise, smart businessman, and many other people are calling it. Yeah, I tend to believe it's going to be a reality.
Alex has been pretty spot on with his predictions. He predicted the all-time high, I believe. Was it last year around Christmas? And he was off
It
one
did, yeah.
day or something crazy.
Yeah.
And I think his new projection in 2021 is that Bitcoin will surpass 100,000 by the end of the year, or before we finish 2021. And speaking of Celsius, actually, I just had a notification on my phone that I got my daily reward. So that's a pretty convenient message now that we're sitting here talking about Celsius. Basically, for those people who don't know, you get interest or rewards every Monday. So that's a fun little way that they make Mondays a lot sweeter than your regular Monday.
It has. I've got the little notifications just popped up during the interview as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's arrived.
nice. And they also introduced this. I think that's brilliant, and I can't understand why others don't do it who are centralized. They just announced or launched their reward explorer, they called it, where you can verify that they're not a Ponzi scheme. You can go in and see these rewards and verify them. They're not just taking other people's deposits and giving some of it to you as a reward, as an interest, um, like people have done in the past, and then everything came cracking down when not enough users were depositing, right? So that I
Yeah,
think
well,
is
that's what gives me a lot of faith in it. The platform is that the CEO is a billionaire, so there is absolutely no incentive for him to be trying to rip people off.
yeah,
And he's a well-known businessman. He's been a creator of a phenomenal technology, VoIP. He's created several billion-dollar companies before. He's holding millions of his own money in the app himself. It gives me a lot of confidence that it's the genuine, real deal.
Yeah, he's sitting with us, not on the other side of the table. He's the biggest user of Celsius himself. So why, if Celsius starts cheating people, he will be cheating himself, right?
That's it.
And he invented, as you say, he invented the voice over IP VoIP, which we're using right now to do this interview. So yeah, he's everywhere, it seems, um, which is brilliant.
I had no idea who created VoIP until I got into Celsius, to be perfectly honest. But yeah,
yeah.
He's a very smart person.
But you mentioned you would buy, if you were to get started with Celsius today, you would buy Bitcoin. So that immediately creates the challenge of, okay, where do I buy this Bitcoin, right? And I think you tweeted recently that the swap feature in Celsius is coming out. Um, is it in August or something like that? They've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah, I believe, as you've seen at the moment with BlockFi, there's just constant regulation issues in America, and that's probably what keeps pushing it back. I'd have to believe, but it's not going to be fully functional. But yeah, it is coming out in a few weeks. A sort of just for select few people apparently. So I'd imagine certain states in America won't be eligible for it. But buying it, I'd still probably buy it from a local exchange. Like if I'm in Australia, I'd buy it from an Australian exchange, or if I was in America, I'd probably buy it from an American exchange. It would end up being cheaper that way. But
yeah,
you can buy in the Celsius app. I've never have, but I'm not sure if it's credit card only. I haven't tried that feature, but I think you generally get better deal buying it through a local exchange still.
Yeah, I mean, that's from what I haven't tried it either, but what I gather is that it's credit card, as you say. They might also have bank transfers, but that's slower. Obviously, it takes, what is it, 48 hours or something because of the Swift and IBAN protocol, the old banking system. So it takes some time if you want to do bank, but if you want to do it immediately, you can use credit card, but then there's a fee, right? There's 2-3% typically. I've experienced at least. Yeah.
They've said it's cheaper than Coinbase, but Coinbase is around about 5%. So it's still not cheap. It'd be around the 3% mark, or 3 to 4%, I'd imagine, using a credit card.
Right.
Yeah, the cheapest way in Australia is a bank transfer to a crypto exchange, which costs you nothing, and then they make about 1% probably, and you probably don't get as good as, probably make 1.5%. As you said, it's not cheap on ramping fiat to crypto still.
Right. And right before the call, we talked about your sort of investment strategy to make money work for you and just have it as a sort of pension security. Maybe you can tell more about that. What's that all about?
Well, in Australia, the superannuation, everyone has to have superannuation. It's like your retirement fund, basically. And you can normally 95% of Australians don't run it themselves. They just let some superannuation company manage it, and they get about 6% return per year, which is basically just probably breaking even realistically with inflation at the moment. So yeah, 2 years ago, I only had like $130,000 in my superannuation account, and it was clearly never going to be enough to retire on in Australia. 130, maybe I'd get up to, by the time I'm retiring, $200,000. So I took the whole lot out because my dad runs a self-managed superannuation fund, and I read somewhere that you can actually invest crypto in it. So I took all my money out of the superannuation fund, put the 130,000 all into Bitcoin, Celsius, and Ethereum, and yeah, it went up 13x or something. So I can retire comfortably now, luckily, for doing that. But if I'd kept it in the retirement fund, actually the year that I took it out, it had actually lost $5,000 for the year. So I had 135,000. The superannuation fund actually lost $5,000 for the year for me. So I actually went negative, and I self-managed it, and yeah, haven't looked back since. It's been very lucky, I guess. I got it. It took ages for them to get it out. I applied for the money to get withdrawn out of the industry fund so I could get it myself, and it took them 3 months or something to give me the money. And in that time, Bitcoin had that huge crash where, when it went down to 4,000 about a year and a half ago. This one, just when COVID started, it had this huge crash. It went down from 20,000 to 4,000. So they took so long to give me my money, I didn't end up buying until just after that crash. I would have bought it $20,000 otherwise. So I ended up buying all this Bitcoin at $5,000. So
that's
I got really lucky. And I think Ethereum at that time was $120 or something crazy as well. So
so insane.
The ineptitude and bureaucracy of the superannuation companies actually did me a favor in that case.
made you a fortune in the end. That's That's nice.
Yeah.
That's the first time I think I hear that somebody is happy about bureaucracy and delays and all these things.
Yeah, well, I was really annoyed it was taking so long at the time, but at the end of the day, they did me a huge.
Yeah.
I just got lucky, basically. Yeah,
And this reminds me of something that Alex keeps talking about. He is obviously a big fan of HODL. I think some of the merch that they sell in Celsius is also, big capital letters, HODL. Don't day trade. Don't sit and follow the charts all the time. It's not good for your wallet, and it's not good for your health.
it's not good for tax. You get taxed every time you buy and sell as well. It's really good advice. I haven't taken it myself. I would have been a lot better off if I've just all that money that I put in just held it rather than trying to trade it. Absolutely.
Mm.
If you just buy it, hold it, have a little bit of patience, give it, because there's going to be more all-time highs.
Mm.
That's I do believe. Yeah.
And that's where people get confused, I think, a lot. Like a lot of people, they compare crypto to stocks, like trading stocks. And when they hear about people who are into stocks, they immediately think about people who are trading stocks almost on a daily basis. But when it comes to
Yeah.
crypto, especially when you can deposit it to something like Celsius and just make it grow just by putting it
Well,
there.
that's the beauty of you're still making money while you're hodling it with Celsius. So
Exactly.
it,
So if it
it really,
So if it grows on average 200%, I mean, there's no guarantees that it will do that in the future. But if Bitcoin, for example, continues to grow 200% annually, and you get 6% on top of that,
yeah,
holding it
you
in
can,
Celsius, I mean, it's very hard to lose in that world, right?
yeah. If it's going up 200%, you really don't even need the yield. That alone is
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 enough.
phenomenal. But there's just gravy, basically a huge bonus to be getting 6% on top of it.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
that's a huge benefit. That's where I look for a retirement product as well,
Mm.
is getting that weekly wage from it, so you don't actually have to sell it. If you've got enough in your retirement fund, you can
Exactly.
just live off that interest. That's
Exactly.
a huge bonus.
And I have a close friend of mine here in Denmark who is doing that. He he used to work in a regular job as a salesman, and was pretty early in crypto. But you don't have to be that early, I think, to live off your interest. And even if you get in today, I think you're still early on a global scale, because there's, compared to how many people we are in the world, there's very few people still in crypto, I think, on a global scale. So, but he basically lives off his interest. He gets the weekly interest, just like we did during this interview, every Monday, and that's his salary. That's what and he's in his 30s today. So
Yeah, it's amazing.
yeah, it's incredible, and it's completely upside down what people are used to. Like people are used to, paying, for example, in your case, 6% for somebody to manage their funds, their savings, and then you might get more than 6%, right? Sometimes you don't even get that. But here you not only have free cost, you don't pay anyone to manage your funds, and they grow, appreciate, like the value of the assets that you hold appreciates, and it grows at 6% if you hold it in Celsius. I mean, this is a completely different world compared to what you're used to, generally.
It is. It's yeah. I don't know why more people aren't getting into it, but it's a slow process. Yeah, Celsius. To give you an example, that their aim is to have 100 million users, and they will get to 1 million this year. But yeah, they're still a long way. They're only still 99% of the only 1% there at the moment. So I agree with you that it's still early if you're investing now.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's still a long way to go.
for sure. I think they didn't cross the 1 million user mark. I know they have like users and then active users.
Yeah, no, they've got about might be about 860,000 users, and they've got about 330,000 active users.
Yeah, okay.
But they're at about 20 to 30,000 users per week, so they'll definitely get to 1 million users this year.
Hmm.
But that's still 99 million to go.
Yeah,
So they're only really 1% of where they want to be.
exactly. So
If
if
they
you join, yeah, so if you join
so
today, you will
if they
basically be one of the first 1% in Celsius, which will be amazing.
yeah, yeah. if they achieve their goals, which there's every chance they could do. Yeah.
Are there any competitors to Celsius that you look to? I mean, they've been in a feud. It almost seems like with BlockFi, and now I think the battle is over. I think Celsius is winning that game. BlockFi messed up entirely. You know,
I did.
I I saw something like they deposited by mistake some ungodly amount of money to a user who didn't.
They sent Bitcoin rewards out instead of US dollars. I don't know how you could make a mistake that big. That's just unbelievable. So somebody had $100 reward US, and they sent 100 Bitcoin to the person. I don't know how you could make that mistake. That's so yeah, that doesn't give you a lot of trust.
Maybe they should have
investing in
made
a
the
company.
reward explorer as we talked about earlier. That would have solved that problem.
Oh, somebody imagine getting that 100 Bitcoin in your wallet. That would have been.
They must have.
So
They
yeah,
must have pulled
there's
that back.
BlockFi, which
They must have
there's
pulled that back,
BlockFi,
right?
which yeah, well, they basically said we're going to sue you if you don't give it back, and they've obviously got all their details. So I'd imagine they managed to get the money back. And then there's Nexo that's got really bad reputation with liquidations, and the site's they're refusing to. They're very bad reputation in regards to liquidations. Lots of complaints there, especially with their oracles have gone wrong and people have been incorrectly liquidated when they shouldn't have been liquidated. So I don't have a lot of trust in Nexo either. Well, yeah, no, I don't. There are lots of companies trying to compete with Celsius, but I think they've got a big, huge first mover advantage, and yeah, I think they're the ones to beat at the moment.
Yeah, Nexo is actually pretty big here in Europe in general, not just in Denmark, because I think they are a European company, and in they both offer Celsius and Nexo. They offer this credit line where you can basically take a loan with using your crypto as collateral, so you don't have to sell your crypto. And I cannot, sitting in Europe, I cannot do that with Celsius. Maybe there are countries where you can, but in Denmark at least you can't. But Nexo works in general. Like you can use that loan feature, and that is a big argument for Nexo here. But as you say, they have a pretty bad reputation when it comes to liquidations, so you have to be careful when you do it.
Yeah, as I said, Celsius go, I think, above and beyond to abide by local regulations. So that would be one of the main issues why they wouldn't be available in areas of Europe. They're very cautious, as you can see with BlockFi. They're starting to get issues with governments, the local state governments in America saying you need to shut down or stop taking on new users because it's a bit up in the air whether they've been following the rules or not. So Celsius have been ultra cautious in that regard to avoid those kind of issues. Yes, better to be cautious than get into trouble with the governments. Yeah,
I agree, and that's actually it's a big topic here within crypto. How Nexo manages to do this, because nobody can find a how do you say, like a license to be able to give out loans in Denmark. You have to have a specific license in Denmark, and it's all public information. You can see who has that license, and Nexo is not one of them. So maybe they're just doing it, and kind of like Binance does sometimes, right? They go into a market, they just start accepting people on their platform, and then
they're a
ask
bit
questions
shady.
later.
They're a bit shady in that regards as well, to following the regulations as well. Yeah, I totally agree. So
So they
I
might
have
be
used
creating.
them
Right.
a few years back, but yeah, I've just too many sort of red flags for me to be putting a lot of money in there.
Yeah, I think Nexo is another example, just like Binance, where they ask questions later, and then they might create more problems than they solve for themselves. And that's a great opportunity for something like Celsius, right? To swoop in, do it the right way first. It might take more time, but do it the right way from the beginning, and then swoop in and take all these Nexo users here in Europe, for example, who are then stuck between having someone that just did it without having permission to do it, and then they will, slowly but surely switch over to Celsius, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I think Nexo has to be considered a security because they pay a dividend. They're copying pretty much everything that Celsius does at the moment. They've brought in they never used to have the, how Celsius, you get extra rewards if you have 25% of the Celsius token. Now Nexio's got that, and they've copied several other things from Celsius. But yeah, I think I would not be surprised if they got into regulatory issues in the future. Nexo, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. But I always like to ask people in the end where they can find you. You have a wealth of knowledge, obviously. We are connected on Twitter. Your handle is CryptoSuperGuy, so that's where people can find you. That's where I found you. But is there anywhere else where you communicate all your thoughts and what's moving in the market?
No, pretty much just Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it with a grain of salt. I say some pretty stupid stuff on Twitter, but
Don't we all? Don't we all?
yes.
All right, but it's been a pleasure. So thank you so much for coming in today, and looking forward to perhaps play some Axie Infinity against you soon enough.